from California. It is 9 o'clock here. I am Francisque Savignan, the founder and CEO of EPARTRADE. Welcome to webinar number 92 or 93, right, Judy? We started to count them all last week because we had a question from someone says, how many have you produced? So this is actually number 93. So good morning, Judy. Do you want to tell us a little bit what we're going to be doing today?
Yeah, we're very fortunate to have Coletta Motorsports and two of their great brand sponsors with us today. I'm thrilled about having them. We have Bob Lawson with Coletta Motorsports, Dave Jones, DHL, and Tony Merritt at Mac Tools.
Excellent. So I'm getting a signal from our producer, Reed Keneski, who is going to be bringing our three guests and three panelists on the screen right now. And to host this wonderful webinar, we have the terrific Brad Gilley. Good morning, Brad. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you doing, Francis?
Excellent. So this is going to be a first that we're going to be talking about sponsorship. Usually we focus more on tech webinars, but this is going to be a terrific one. So I see Bob on screen. I see Dave, and I think Terry's on. So Brad Gilley, you're in charge, and we'll see you in the next 55 minutes. Good morning, gentlemen.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Francis. We appreciate that. And thrilled about this one for sure, just simply because, as Francis mentioned, a lot of times we're talking about new parts and pieces, new technologies in the racing industry, a lot of things that racers can really benefit from. Well, this is absolutely something that racers can really benefit from, because as we all know, it's partnerships, it's sponsorships that really help make the world go around in this business, in this industry. And a lot of times sponsorship could be maybe misunderstood in really how it's effective and what truly makes it work for all involved, not only for the race team, but the sponsor themselves and for the customers who are out there watching these billboards go really fast around the racetrack. But as we all know, it's way more than just the billboard. So to introduce our panelists, first of all, we have Bob Lawson, the business manager from Team Coletta. We also have Dave Jones, the regional customer manager from DHL Americas, and Tony Merritt, the vice president of marketing sponsorships with Stanley Black & Decker and Mac Tools. And gentlemen, first of all, I'll say hello to you each individually and let you know as well that as we go along, as we have questions, some of those might be directed to you, but if anyone else wants to follow up on an answer, you are absolutely more than welcome to do so. And if you're watching right now, if you have a question for any one of our panelists, just type that into the chat feature and we'll see how many questions we can get out there as well. But I think we're going to have a fun hour here with today's race industry now. So Bob Lawson, first of all, let me just start with you with Team Coletta. You've been with in this industry for a long time, and you've been with Coletta for a long time as well. So kind of give us an overview of some of the things as it relates to the team side of things and sponsorship that you had on your mind to talk about today.
Hey, thanks, Brad. I really appreciate you and everybody at EPARTRADE allowing us to do this. I've got some good friends with us today, both in Tony and Dave. And, you know, being an industry that we've all supported for a long time, you know, we've got a guy here at Coletta Motorsports. This is his 62nd year of doing this. And he's supported NHRA drag racing. He's one of the icons in the sport. And without the businesses that support us day in and day out at the racetrack, Connie, as many people know, has an aviation business, but quite frankly, it's the racing that motivates him to build the aviation business to where the level it is today. But it's great partners, and in today's economy and today's challenges with so many other forms of motorsport and other forms of technology out there, we really fight tooth and nail every day to find the sponsorships to help keep these programs going. So just thought it was a great platform for us to be able to talk to some of the racers out there, whether they're professional sportsmen or what have you, to kind of give them a little idea of the things that we've done over the years to have a 20-year relationship with Tony and Mac Tools, or the B2B elements of the DHL partnership that we've had since 2007. So to build these long-term partnerships, it takes a lot of infrastructure and a lot of effort on a lot of parts, and you got to be flexible with the way things have changed from a technology standpoint. So we just thought it would be kind of a great way to tell everybody how we do it, and hopefully provide some insight to how other racers can find the funding to come out and compete as well.
Yeah, and I think this is a great forum to be able to do that. Tony, let me go to you next. First of all, let me say that is probably the most incredible office and background that I've seen on any type of Zoom call that I've been on here in the last year or so. But it obviously shows a lot of experience and a lot of great memories in this business. But for Mac Tools celebrating 20 years together with Kalitta Motorsports, if you would just give us an overview of that partnership and how things have gone.
Yeah, absolutely, Brad. Thanks so much. And coming from you, that means a lot because I know you see a lot of Zoom background. So thank you so much. So, but hey, as Bob said, Mac Tools 20 years. I can go back to when we started this back at the Mac Tool Gator Nationals many years ago. We started having conversations. We really looked at Connie as an icon in the sport. Not only Connie is the team owner, but owning Kalitta Air and having, 3,000 plus technicians in Oscoda. What a better place to invest and partner with, people using tools on a daily basis. So, I've had Bob says Tony and Mac Tools. Well, this is about Mac Tools. This is not about Tony Merritt. This is about how Mac Tools can take care of their customers. How they can take care of their franchisees, how we can put tools in those technicians' hands working on that 11,000 horsepower top fuel dragster and showing how durable our tools are and that they need to be buying Mac Tools versus any other tool brand. So it's been an amazing journey over the last 20 years. I've been able to be a part of it with Bob and Connie and everybody at Kalitta Motorsports. And, it's just we're just so proud of this sponsorship and how long we've been a part of it.
That's wonderful. And Dave, I'll turn it to you now. If we talk about B2B, I don't know that there's a better combination when you look at Kalitta Air and DHL and everything. And I know you've got 24 years of experience in the industry and obviously being able to work with Kalitta Motorsports. Give us an overview of DHL's partnership with Kalitta and how things work with that.
No, I appreciate it, Brad. Bob and Tony said it best. It's been a heck of a partnership. It started back in '88 with Connie flying freight for us from JFK to Brussels, which expanded from the U.S. to the Middle East. Now he's our largest interline haul operator for us within DHL. So it's been an absolute phenomenal partnership since '88, but since 2007 when we joined the Motorsports. The brand awareness we get on the cars and the speed, it's just amazing. And working with Kalitta and the whole team's been an absolute pleasure. I'm relatively new to the NHRA program. I came on about 4 years ago to help support the Kalitta team. Me being based out of Detroit seemed like a good fit with Kalitta being Ypsilanti. And what we've been able to do over the last 4 years on the B2B has been pretty incredible. So not to mention that I love NHRA and the whole experience. So that helps out. But we've achieved quite a bit in the last 4 years, and I look forward to the next 10, 15 years.
Great. Bob, when we start talking about sponsorship and going out there and finding partners to support the race team and to support everything that you're doing, sometimes people can have a narrow view, as I mentioned. Some people look at it as in this case, a 300+ mile per hour billboard, or, we're going to get you exposure, we're going to get you great signage. But when I first got into this business and started learning about sponsorships, I learned real quick it's about creating partnerships that make sense. And sometimes those partnerships make sense from a hospitality side of things. Sometimes they do make sense from an exposure side of things. And sometimes they make sense with business to business relationships and different things like that. So whenever you're talking to sponsors, maybe it's a Tony or a Dave, or maybe it's someone new that you're looking at bringing in, what are some of the things that you talk about? What are some of the things that race teams really have to offer just beyond what we actually see on television?
It's a combination of everything, Brad. Quite frankly, there's no one key element anymore. When, again, the days of let's just put a big logo on the side of a car, those don't exist anymore. The fortunate part of NHRA is that the accessibility that our drivers and our fans have to really get close and personal. And it's like no other sport, whether it's a stick and ball sport or any type of motorsport. So that attraction in itself helps start it, because our fans are so passionate and they're so brand loyal, quite frankly. So we take a piece of that. And if we're looking at a Tony or Dave, those things have evolved over the years. But when you talk about new companies and all the attributes that not only Coletta Motorsports has, but the NHRA has, again, you start with the accessibility. So where does that lead into? We do have a pit side VIP experience that allows people kind of the backstage opportunity. So that helps, again, with Tony and both Dave, where they're bringing customers, whether they're a chance to develop a new franchisee for Mac Tools or Sealmaster, or DHL bringing in a Fortune 100 company as a guest to give them an experience that they've never had before. So the hospitality piece for us is a very big part of it, just because, again, the drivers are super engaging. You can educate the people about what's going on throughout the day. Most fans, if they're there, they're going to be some type of automotive enthusiast. So to see what our teams do, whether it's the drivers packing the chutes or the clutch guy pulling out a clutch, that, we race for less than 4 seconds and have a tremendous amount of work that has to go on in between those races. So that's a show within itself. So I tell everybody we're in the entertainment business. So when you're in the entertainment business, you got to put it on a good show, whether it's in the pit area and that VIP experience, whether or not it's on the racetrack where you can get some excellent Fox and Fox Sports 1 exposure, which has really helped our sport grow, or you're entertaining somebody that they have an experience that they maybe not have had for several years, and it reminds them of going to an amusement park. But they get to do it as a family. And that's the other big attribute to our sport, is they can start racing junior dragsters at 5 years old now. So both JR and Sean on our teams, both DHL drivers, they started there and grew into funny car and top fuel drivers. Doug's a little bit of an anomaly. He stepped right into a top fuel car, but that's just who Doug is. He's one of those guys that he is super smooth, but it's an encompassing partnership. When we go out and look for new partners or someone approaches us, it starts with a business plan. What are the key factors for them based on all the attributes that we have? And whether it's a technology piece where we're developing with NGK like a new nitromethane spark plug, or with Mobil 1 on an oil development that's going to help us perform better. Those type of partnerships are just as important as somebody, writing a check. And that's the beauty of this, because when you have Connie's business behind us, as Tony mentioned, there's so many other opportunities to grow those B2B partners.
Now, I want to ask both Tony and Dave pretty much the same question. And, Tony, for you first, I mean, you guys are involved in so many other forms of motorsports as well. And through Stanley Black & Decker, you really touch a lot of forms of motorsports, as do you, Dave, as well. But, for a race team, their needs are, I'll just simplify it down to, they need support. And sometimes that support could just simply be financial. Sometimes that support could be technological. Sometimes it could be logistics, whatever it might be. But your needs as a sponsor, and when someone is talking to you, Tony, for example, and saying, okay, here's what we have to offer, what can we do for you? How does someone actually first, what questions does someone need to ask really to understand what your needs are, to see what they can do to get the most out of a potential partnership?
Yeah, absolutely. And, underneath the Stanley Black & Decker umbrella, we have multiple brands. So, Mac Tools is with Coletta, but, we have DeWalt, we have Stanley, we have Black & Decker, we have multiple brands. And, Bob goes back to, years ago, it was about sticking a decal on a race car. It was putting a logo on a race car. And, how many logos can we get on race cars? It has nothing to do with that nowadays. Whenever a new marketing leader comes into the business, the first thing that they ask me is, well, how do you base, or your sponsorships? What's your KPIs? And, each one of our brands stand for something, and they all have their different KPIs that we look at. And big part of it's demographics and things like that. And, so when we look at a sponsorship, we basically look at 4 things. It's pretty simple and it's easy. We want to be visible. Whatever we go into, whether it's racing, whether it's Major League Baseball, whether it's soccer, whatever it may be, we do want to be visible. Visibility is important. We want our brands to be seen. But, Bob was talking about number 2 would be, what kind of customer experience are we going to be able to give that customer? Whether it's a new franchisee, whether it's a shop owner, whatever that may be. we've got people at the Masters this week attending the Masters. What kind of experience are you going to be able to give that customer? So that's number two. Number three, it's B2B. How are we going to drive revenue with this partnership, whether it's creating a sweepstakes, whether it's creating a promotion at a retailer, or whether it's selling our products and services to Dave and DHL for them to service their trucks, their planes, or selling in security to them. And I just got a question: what's a KPI? Key performance indicators is what KPI stands for. So it kind of threw me off guard there, but as I got that question up. But that's what a KPI is, and that's what everybody wants. What's those key performance indicators that is going to determine whether we sponsor this or not? So one's visibility, two's customer experience, three's driving revenue, and three is basically living out our purpose. Stanley Black & Decker is for those who make the world. How do we make the world better, not only with our products and services, but with our partnerships we put together? Coletta has got their partnership with a Kid Again Foundation. Amazing partnership that they put together there. So Coletta is helping people, and how can we as Stanley Black & Decker continue to help people too? So exposure, experience, revenue, and living out our purpose is how we kind of look at every partnership that we entertain.
And how about you, Dave? And I'll even expand on that a little bit too. If I'm presenting to you, or if I'm presenting to a sponsor, obviously I'm going to, sell what we have, but I also need to start asking questions about what your needs are as well. So relationships like that, developing those and making sure someone's asking the right questions. What are you looking for? Nope, for some reason we can't hear you, Dave. No, it doesn't show that you're muted, but no. I'll tell you what, while you work on that, yeah, we don't hear you right at second, but while you work on that, I'll jump up to Bob real quick. Bob, as you're developing relationships, again, you have to ask these questions. Maybe you have an idea in your mind of what a potential sponsor might want or what they're looking for, or as you already have these relationships going, they tend to evolve over time as needs change. So kind of give us an overview of that and what you look for, and really from the team side of things, how you help get the most out of that partnership.
Well, Brad, honestly, I think last year is the best example that we could provide. Is no one saw what we went through with COVID coming, and we're still living it to a degree. But when you take your sport and you do your daily livelihood and all your partners and what they invest in you to do, and you can't do it, you have to really come up with ways to determine how can we help keep this thing going? How can we stay relevant? How can we provide a return on investment for them that wasn't even on anybody's radar? So, this is a perfect example of a Zoom. We met a lot of partners last year via Zoom. We added some new partners and hadn't even had an opportunity to meet them at the racetrack or talk to them and shake their hand and say thank you. We had to do it virtually. And so we also had to evolve from how do we continue to support companies like, Mac Tools and DHL as just the two examples. I mean, we tried to do this for all of our partners. And, what we did is DHL, their marketing staff, come up with ways for our drivers. One of the big initiatives for their 5,000 couriers out there, 4,500 to 5,000 couriers that drive and deliver packages every day in the US, we want to help safety. Safety is what it's all about, because they need to get home to their families every day after spending, all day on the road. And same goes for the Mac tool distributors that are out on the road trying to sell tools, and they want to go home to their families every night and they want to do it safely. So our guys would get on a Zoom and talk about those strategies of, hey, this is, I might be going 330 mile an hour, but this is what I look for when I'm going down the track, but I also use it in my daily life. So it is, you try to bring it back to a personality that somebody tells you what it's like to go 330 mile an hour, but asks you not to do it, but also wants to make sure that we can be engaging with them. So thanks to Zoom and thanks to all of our partners who were extremely flexible, we were able to engage with a lot more people than we thought we could. And that helps keep things going along because we were all fighting the same challenge. And so when you can do that and people can learn new things and still get an opportunity to engage with our drivers or our crew chiefs, you know, from a technical perspective or a driver perspective, there's still personality involved. And that's the beauty of our sport. You know, the mentality of people who want to go 330 mile an hour is different than somebody that doesn't. And so when you can have that conversation and feel like you walk away from something, it just makes that experience when we do get back to the racetrack that much better. One of the big things for us from a business perspective was we hosted our first virtual B2B, where we had 44 partners on a Zoom call. And we introduced everybody, and there was a lot of cross engagement on, hey, you're new to us and we haven't shaken your hand yet, but I really feel like there's an opportunity here for both of you or all of you to work together. And that still pays dividends to this day.
Dave, we have you back by chance? Yeah, let's see. I think, I don't know if we'll see if we can get you a little technical help on that. Sometimes the miracles of modern technology don't always work the way that they always need us to. We'll transfer over to communication. We'll get back to you here in just a moment, Dave. Communication. Was that you, Dave? Did you done? Okay. Communication. Tony, for you, what are you looking for from the race team? Because again, it's always about follow-up, and you know, yeah, it'd be real easy to send you results and say, hey, we won another Wiley this week or something like that. But realistically, you know, there's a lot of back and forth, and there's a lot of planning and just really everything that goes into it. So what do you guys look for, either from ahead of time, host event, you know, and maybe what they were able to deliver to you, and all of that as it covers everything?
Yeah, you know, communication's key. You know, no matter whether it's a partnership, you know, my wife, I've got to communicate with my wife or it's not going to work, you know. But Coletta, you know, has done a great job. We do bi-weekly calls, you know, as races are coming up, you know, making sure things are being taken care of. You know, we get all of the visibility numbers, you know, exposure information reports sent to us. Somebody asked a question a few minutes ago, what's ROI? Return on investment. You know, I'm trying to look at the questions as they come up too. So, you know, but it's all about return on investment, whether that is exposure, whether that is, you know, through B2B. Bob was talking a little bit about B2B, and, you know, when we go into a sponsorship, a partnership, I like to call it a partnership versus a sponsorship. You know, whether it's Coletta and being able to sell security and tools and fasteners to DHL or Toyota or whoever that may be, that's what this is all about. It's about those relationships. And it sounds like Dave's coming in and out there on us. But, you know, communication is key in any partnership. And we do weekly calls, bi-weekly calls. You know, we do meetings at the track when we're able to get there. But, you know, Bob was talking about Zoom. And, you know, last year we had to be agile and we had to make a really quick change in March and April. And how do we take that experience and bring it to our customers? And we started doing meet and greets over Zoom before races and giving our customers the opportunity to ask questions to that driver before they strapped in that car. We did our first dealer conference where we took a huge company that we was doing business with, and we did a virtual happy hour at a conference that they had. And we brought in Doug Coletta, we brought in Chip Foose, brought in Joe Gibbs, our NASCAR driver, and we give everybody an hour to ask questions to those personalities. Those are things that some of our competitors don't have access to. So we had to be agile. We had to make changes very quickly through this pandemic to keep our programs and show that return on investment with our customers. And even though that it was online, it was pretty, you know, it was pretty cool to personally sit there and ask Doug Coletta, hey, what's it feel like to go 330 miles an hour? Chip Foose, what is it like building $1 million cars? And, Coach Gibbs, I mean, 3 Super Bowls, 4 championships. Not the normal people don't get to have conversations with those people on a daily basis.
Yeah, very well said. All right, Dave, we got you back, which is awesome. And don't feel bad. This happened to me like during a television interview the other night too. So it's one of those things. But let me circle back around to in engaging with sponsors and trying to find new partnerships, or really continuing to develop partnerships, figuring out what your needs are as a sponsor. What does a race team need to do? I think we lost you again, Dave. That's okay. It works when your phone works, but we had you there for just a minute. We'll see if we can continue to work on that. Apologies on this one, but it happens. Bob, on your end, communicating. What do you guys do at Coletta Motorsports? Maybe what are some best practices, to be able to, show the sponsor exactly what this relationship is truly doing for them?
It goes back to staying top of mind. Quite frankly, we work very hard and diligently with pre-race, during the race, post-race communications. We've got a master list of well over 150 people that we communicate to anytime we have a new partner or anything like that, because we want to be aware. We don't want to overburden them, because again, with COVID and everything, everybody's doing tons of Zooms, their emails going crazy. So we try to be respectful of that, but we also try to stay relevant and positive and creative, because, if you're going to be creative with everybody, and that's the beauty of our B2B program, because we try to utilize, you mentioned best practices. We share that information across the board with everybody. And we really, we try to connect everybody and let them run with it as well. Some partners have only been with us for a year. Other partners have been with us for 20 years. So you don't know where their, marketing initiatives are, but us being the common denominator from a team perspective, we've pretty much done everything somewhere along the line. So if somebody comes to us with an idea, hey, can we try to do this with Tony or Dave or any of your other partners, then yeah, we try to connect that up, make that happen, and then be a creative portion of that, whether it's utilizing our drivers, whether it's utilizing our crew chiefs, anybody within the organization that can help that. And when you think about the capabilities that we have, we've got a company, Autodesk, that provides us the software for all of our CNCs, which we've got 14 of them that make over 1,000 parts and pieces for our race cars. We've expanded. Even now we're doing airplane parts that because Connie and Doug's businesses are growing so much, they need all the help that way too. So when you talk about engineering, our Toyota partners with TRD and everything like that, we try to utilize those partners and across all of our other partners. So I call it connecting the dots. And that's what we've been able to do. And with Tony's a perfect example of that, because we've been doing it together for 20 years. And you just never know where these new opportunities and pockets may come in. But unless you ask the questions of what can we do for you? What are your initiatives and what matters most? Then we can kind of use it as a blank piece of paper and draw it up from there.
That's awesome. All right, Dave, I want to try you again. We got you now?
You got me now?
Yes, sir. All right. Well, good. We'll give you the final 30 minutes. No, I'm kidding. But, let's talk about some of the relationships and as they develop and being able to ask the right questions and figure out what your needs are as a sponsor.
I think a couple of the things are working with Coletta Motorsports, identifying, what we want to get out of the program. I think accessibility, B2B, as Tony said earlier, but bringing the customers into the motorsports who've never even been to a race before and giving them the full experience, and being able to sit there and watch the pit crew take down the car and rebuild it, or get a chance to talk to Sean or JR. That goes a long way with our customers. And I can't tell you how many times I've taken customers to the race and never been there. And I'll get a testimonial back after the race on what a great experience is and how many people they're going to tell. And that just secures our relationship with the customer by giving them that customer experience. Well, it's securing the business we have with that customer as well. And it looks for new opportunities within the organization also. So I think those are some of the key drivers, as well as the B2B. You know, every time I go to a race, sitting there getting to talk to new sponsors, new vendors, people I've never spoke to about, talking about what we can do as a DHL logistically for their company, as vice versa. They might have opportunities within DHL that I could connect the dots and put them in contact with the right people they need to speak to. So I think that's the value of the partnership there, and moving forward, just to increase the business and accessibility.
Yeah, which is fascinating. You know, one of the questions that came in, and Dave, I'll just throw this at you, and Tony, curious as well. Someone asked, how detailed do you like a sponsorship deck? Let's say someone's presenting something to you. Maybe it's an idea that's coming from Bob. Maybe it's someone who's trying to pitch a new sponsorship, whatever it might be. I think you obviously want to see that they're buttoned up, but how detailed do you want to see some of those presentations?
Well, I can say offhand, Bob and Team Coletta is very detailed. So, but I think the importance of that coming to a sponsor is give a case study, something maybe we never thought about before in our organization to help promote or increase business. And I think that's what Bob and his team does. They'll bring examples to you that they may have done with other sponsors that will help increase our business or do our business more efficiently. So I think they do a great job at that.
How about you, Tony?
Yeah, and I think that it would just depend on what brand that we're looking to take into a partnership. You know, I think we have some brands that are North America focused. We have some brands that are global. So I think that, you know, as we look at partnerships, we look at, you know, global reach. Number one, you know, drag racing is, you know, mostly North America, but there is a ton of drag race fans all around the world that come from Australia. You know, I was on a call the other day with somebody from Australia that loved drag racing. So I think that global footprint is big for us. I think national TV coverage is big. You know, having a TV package as Fox and things like that, getting our brands out in front of it, social reach from your social channels, you know, whether it's Instagram, whether it's, you know, Facebook, whatever, you know, I think your reach on social is very important to us. And, you know, primarily it's really, you know, what demographic are we trying to reach? You know, with Coletta, it would be, you know, drag racing, some marketing studies that we've done in the past. Drag racing is professional technicians. They love to come and watch the crews work on those Top Fuel cars and those pro cars, and using those tools because that's what they do on a daily basis. So I get multiple proposals on a daily basis, and you know, I want to respond to every one of them. I believe every one of them that I read is great opportunities. But you really just got to look at, you know, is it going to move the needle? Is it going to show us that return on investment? Is it going to help us sell security, fasteners, tools, whatever that may be? And, you know, I try to respond to everybody that responds to me. Sometimes I just don't get to it, but that's kind of what we look for. We want as much detail as we can, and we want to see how many people we're going to reach and if we're going to be able to drive revenue with these partnerships.
You know, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dave.
No, Tony made a good point. You know, brand awareness, that visibility, especially for DHL being a global company. You know, you never know when a CEO or executive's watching Fox, a live race, and sees the DHL logo down there and says, hey, I've never tried them before. Maybe let's give them a shot. So I think brand visibility, you know, seeing that yellow car go down the track is a great partnership for us, DHL and Coletta. So.
I like that. Bob, someone has asked, how do you guys offer partners a realistic way to measure ROI? And I'm sure every partner may measure that in a much different way, but what can you offer to help with that? Because again, someone up the food chain is going to ask, why are we doing this? Why does this make sense? And obviously you want to present that to them in a way that shows that it does make sense and it is profitable for them ultimately.
Yeah, we touched on it a little bit earlier about ROI. Those are the three magic letters that everybody has to be responsible for when they report up through their company. How is this benefiting us? So ROI for us, as Tony mentioned earlier, there's so many different platforms now. You have social media, you have PR, you have TV. What we have done at Coletta Motorsports is invested in each of those. In other words, we use a third party, non-biased opinion company to track our social media, to track our PR, and to also track what we get on television. So those are investments that we make. So we're able to provide our partners tangible dollars, so they can see what their return is that way. Now, the intangible parts of that are the experiences that David mentioned too, whether it's an on-site and you give somebody something that they've never had before. They walk away with an autographed piston from any of the drivers, or something they didn't expect, but that may result in $1 million sale. You just don't know that. So those are the things and that's why we communicate the way that we do. So we offer quarterly reports on all of our measurable metrics. And then we also, anything we can do to follow up with our partners on, do you have a special guest? Is there anything that we can do, or send something from our race shop, whether it's even an autographed thank you card for coming out and making time to come to our events. Those are all the little things that, been in the sport a long time, and I started in the sportsman ranks, and it's always being about how do you make it the best experience for everybody possible, because you don't know who that other person is. And it is that experiential piece of it that they have to leave there with a good feeling. Not everybody likes nitromethane, but they're going to remember that smell, whether they like it or not. So what you have to leave them with something that's positive. And maybe it is an autographed piece or part that could be for their next door neighbor's kid or something like that. So you just got to make sure that memorable experience is something that either when Dave or Tony or any of our partners follow up with their customers, they get a report back like, that was a really cool thing. Thank you for including me. And the next time I need to order something, I'm going to give you a call.
Yeah, and just to expand on it just a little bit, we talk about getting people to the track. You can watch drag racing on TV and it's cool, but until you get them to the track and they experience a warm up of the car going down the track, the smells, all of our management team, they say, when we start looking at where we're going to sponsor the next year, and they say, we put together why slides on all of our programs. Why are we with, Coletta Motorsports? Well, it's because of this demographic. It's about this many people. It's about this. But when we get them to the track and they actually experience it, they go, wow, we get it now. It's like plugging the cord into the wall and getting power. We get it. And it's anybody that's out there, if they go to a race, a drag race or a NASCAR race, and they see that our products are being used. When I walk down pit road at a NASCAR event and I see all of our DeWalt products and our Mac Tool products all the way down pit road, if I go into the haulers, whether it's an NHRA race or a cup race, and they're using our Vidmar cabinets or Lista cabinets in those trailers, the sports that we're involved in, we're embedded into those sports, and getting people out and seeing that and getting to experience it and see our products in use, that's a lot different than watching it on TV.
I like that, being embedded. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, Tony hit it right on the head. I can't tell you how many times it's so different than watching a race in person than on TV. But you get that customer or employee down to the track, smelling that nitro, feeling the rumble, getting some rubber on your glasses. That's a totally new experience, and it's a lifetime experience, because I'll tell you, I take these customers to the track, and they'll thank me after the experience, but I'll hear from them for years after that. They'll say, "Hey, were you in Gainesville this weekend? How'd you guys do this weekend? How's Las Vegas looking?" They're constantly keeping in contact, and it pulls in that interest. So I think you couldn't hit the nail on the head even more. That's the greatest experience that we see with these partnerships, is what the customers and employees come out of by attending these races.
Yeah, I agree with you guys wholeheartedly. I've always said and try and preach that absolutely nothing replaces the actual at-track experience, because it is just simply incredible. And it doesn't matter if you're down in the pits or up in the grandstands, wherever it may be, from the midway to everything that you can see, being at track is truly an incredible experience. Dave, I want to ask you about this too, is, a lot of times we talk about sponsorship kind of being one-sided. What can the team do for you? And it is a partnership. And sometimes the B2B is also what can you do for the team? But for a sponsor, the race team is also an asset of yours as well. And I'm sure those ideas are constantly flowing both ways, of things that you're coming up with at DHL to say, okay, how can we utilize Kalitta Motorsports or any of our other racing assets to be able to expand upon this? Can you talk about that a little bit?
I got to say that Kalitta Motorsports goes out of their way. We have a lot of initiatives within DHL, whether it be Go Green, breast cancer awareness, Earth Day. And, a lot of times Kalitta will bring a JR's car out to our plantation headquarters, where employees can come down, ask questions, or they'll put an initiative on the car as it speeds down the raceway. But they definitely go out of their way, and they work with our marketing team on a weekly basis to come up with new ideas on how we can become better partners and help with our initiatives, and vice versa, DHL helping with Kalitta's initiatives. So they definitely go out of their way, above and beyond. And like Bob touched on earlier, safety is a key issue within DHL. And having JR or Sean come out to a local station or speak over a Zoom call on what they see, even though they're going 330 miles an hour, it resonates with our drivers and our employees. And you can't begin to believe, after that call is done, how they're talking about it or how excited it is. So it goes a long way for us, and we really appreciate what they do for us.
How about on your side, Tony, when you've got that relationship, and obviously the flow of ideas goes both ways, but whether you're talking about, activation with the team or something that you want to utilize the team for, how does that work on your end?
Yeah, Bob said it a few minutes ago. He used the word and I wrote it down, but options. I think that options is what every sponsor is looking for. When you go into a partnership and you do a contract, when we sign a contract, we put it in the filing cabinet, and I kind of forget about a contract. When I bring a thought or an idea to a team, the first thing I don't want to hear is, well, we can't do that. That's not in our contract. I want them to say, well, we can't do this, but we can do that. And it's about bringing options to the table. And it's about, collaborating together to deliver, to maximize on the opportunity, whatever that may be. And so, whether it's, a promotion that we're running, like Dave was saying, whether it's a charity that we're supporting, a campaign that we're running, Kalitta has always been great at helping us achieve our goals or giving us options to help us get across the finish line.
I like that. Bob, I'm curious from your end of things as well. Let's talk about growth and growing sponsorship. Most all of my experience comes from the racetrack side of things. And I've seen sponsors go from, a simple billboard or midway, sponsorship to all of a sudden growing up to a race entitlement, because all along the way, you've just continued to deliver and do things and present things that make sense. If you would, Bob, talk about growing sponsors, and it doesn't matter if they're the big one on the side of your car or if they're maybe a smaller sponsor, what you can do to continue to further those relationships.
It honestly goes back to the communication, and being flexible. If somebody has a certain market that they're trying to grow their business in or something like that, and you get creative on how to help them expand into that area. So you can take a small partner, and we've had many of them that started small and grew over time just because of they learn those experiences that they're getting. Again, it may start out as a product program that when they come to the race and they start finding the flexibility of bringing their partners or their guests or somebody like that to the race, and they're like, wow, how do we do more of that? Or I noticed, watching the race on Fox, that there's a little more room for our logo. Is there something that we can do there? Or can we utilize the drivers in a different capacity? For us, it's whether we're trying to sell Toyotas every day for our Toyota partners, or, growing a new business, that it could be as simple as, a new partner. We've been very, very fortunate to add several partners these last few years, and whether it's a Fatheads Eyewear that comes in and helps our drivers see better, or, there's so many things that, again, flexibility, because we're so capable across the board to be able to do different things. I mentioned the Autodesk, the software side of it. That's something that they could help DHL, and they have helped DHL set out warehouses and build warehouses because it's the same technology. So that is an opportunity for us to connect them up with other people. But that's all done behind the scenes. They may entertain a customer up in Seattle that's a really big machine shop. Or how do you tell a software company that we're going to help them grow their business, right? You have to be able to do things that other people cannot. And sometimes it's as easy as bringing them out to a race. Other times it's as easy, it's making it a big billboard looking like this is the biggest thing ever, and finding a way to maximize their investment and show them the flexibility that we can do. So for me, it's all about flexibility, because when I introduce them to people like Dave and Tony and all of our other partners, they find ways to grow their business. And for that, it's the bottom line.
We've had a couple of questions coming through the chat, and Dave and Tony, I want to ask you, and Bob, if you want to chime in as well. That involves the grassroots racer, the smaller race teams doing things. And, you've got worldwide companies like DHL and Stanley Black & Decker. This is what we're talking about here today. But, Dave, realistically, some of the things and a lot of the principles that we're talking about today, let's just say, I want to, find my local auto parts or car dealer, whatever, and I'm looking for sponsorship on my car, and I want my smaller team to grow. A lot of the principles that we're talking about here today, I would assume they could still apply to anybody. What advice would you have for a smaller grassroots type team?
Yeah, I would just suggest, working with your local teams. And I think Bob said flexibility. If we can get you on a car or your logo somewhere to get that more visibility, that would be my suggestion. So I think that question is probably more directed towards our marketing group, but that would be my insight there. Maybe Tony has a better insight.
Yeah, as I've been talking, I've been seeing those questions pop up at the bottom, and so I wanted to kind of address that, because the grassroots racer, the smaller organizations, they're not a Coletta. They don't have. I seen one of the guys that we don't have 3,000 technicians. We don't have national TV coverage. And it's really hard for those grassroots racers. It's really hard for those smaller teams to crack through and get that sponsorship. And the only suggestion that I would say is keep knocking on doors, keep passing out business cards, keep sending proposals. One door is going to close after another. You're going to hear 50 no's before you hear one yes. And so I would just say continue to knock on the door. And I always give everybody the opportunity, continue to follow up with me. All right. I might continue to say no, but you just never know when that next yes might come up. I was on a call this morning. We have a division in Michigan that they're going to do a small sponsorship with a small grassroots racer there. And I was like, well, why do you want to do this? And they said, Tony, we need awareness of our plant in this town. We need awareness for people to know that we're hiring in this area. All right. And I said, that makes sense. All right. It doesn't make sense to put this on Coletta's car because it's not, it's a certain target audience that you're trying to reach. So I would just suggest continue to knock on doors, continue to pass out business cards. Carl Edwards went to races every weekend and passed out business cards until he finally got a seat. Continue to knock on doors, continue to pass out business cards. Don't get frustrated. Continue to send proposals, and somebody will finally say yes to you. That's the only advice that I could possibly give.
Yeah, I want to ask you, and Tony, I'll start with you while we're talking. Look, for racers, winning is absolutely everything. And I know winning is very important to a lot of people, but on the sponsorship level, it's not just about collecting trophies, is it?
It's not, but it sure helps. I'll tell you that. We've been with Coletta now for 20 years. Dougie has not won a championship, but he's been second. And you know what? He's always there on Sunday. He's always making rounds. He's getting TV visibility. He's winning trophies. So yeah, I mean, winning, we want to be affiliated with winners, whether it's in Major League Baseball, whether it's in soccer, whether it's in NASCAR or NHRA drag racing. Winning does matter. We want the more you win, the more visibility you get. So I don't want to say winning doesn't matter, because it does. But if you deliver on visibility, experience, revenue, living out purpose, those are the things that really matter.
How about you, Dave?
No, Tony said it best. Winning's not everything, but it makes Sundays a lot more sweeter. We do a lot of sponsorships, and it's nice to see whoever we're sponsoring be in that winner circle and give us the visibility, especially as a global company. So, but yeah, we were fortunate enough when I came into this role in 2018, JR won the world championship. And, I thought that happened every year, and it doesn't. So it's much more sweeter. So, but no, we've been fortunate. JR and Sean have done a great job for us, and seeing that car in the winner's circle is just tremendous. So they do a lot for us as far as brand awareness, and that means a lot to our company as well.
Bob, I know that's always a great phone call to make when you've got successes on the track to be able to share with your partners and sponsorships. But what else are you sharing with them?
Well, yeah, I mean, anytime you win, that's what everybody wants to hear, because that is part of their investment. And unfortunately, in our sport, you're not going to win every race. And what you have to be able to do is deliver every day. If we help them grow their businesses every day, what we do on the weekends and Sunday in the winner's circle is icing on the cake. They invest in us as an organization. If winning is what it's all about, you're not going to have a 20-year relationship. It just doesn't exist in today's model. You have to build it like a foundation of, we need to hit all these objectives. And once we do that, the winning becomes, again, the icing on the cake, because if we could win every race, we would. And we've been given every resource possible by Connie and his iconic status in this sport. He's forgotten more than most of us will ever know about what's going on in drag racing. And, it's just not easy. It's not one of those things. And that's the part where you have to put on, and I'll take this back a little bit to the sportsmen guys and girls out there that are watching. You have to have a presentation like you are a professional team, because companies will not invest in you if you're not something that's a good representative of their organization. But if you have a professional looking deal and everything's clean and you're always buttoned up and you're proactive on social and you've got all these other elements for you, that is going to help you get to the next level. And those are the things that we continue day in and day out here. We're very fortunate. We've got a PR manager, a social media manager, a new business development manager, myself and Chad Head. Collectively, we've got 125 years of experience in motorsports. So you add that and that doesn't even include Connie. And, there's people that have worked here for over 30 years. So take that knowledge and share it together and work together as one team. And a lot of people out there will see us. We're 3 cars, but we're one team. And that's the way this organization has always been. And it's the only way that it's going to win for all of our partners.
That's very, very well said, Tony.
I'll just add on to that. And I just seen somebody, they said appearance and professionalism. when I think of Doug Coletta's Mac Tools Top Fuel team, it is the most perfect pit area that you could eat off the floor in that pit area. When our customers come in and they're in the hospitality and everything's clean, everything's wiped down, everything is perfect, that just shows the presence of the team. I think, and I go back to, many years sponsoring Kenny Bernstein and the Budweiser Top Fuel drag strip. When you walked into his pit area, it was perfect. And when I think of Coletta Motorsports in any of those teams, and Dougie's, because it's the Mac Tool team, it is about the presence. It's about a clean pit area. It's about the professionalism. It's about the crews being in nice, clean uniforms. And it's about, being humble. And that's when I think of Coletta Motorsports and investing into a partnership, that's what I think about.
Consistency. Yeah, I would say that just to touch upon what Tony said, it's consistency. One thing you notice, whether you're going to hospitality in Brainerd or in Gainesville or Sonoma, it's always the same: clean, efficient, customer friendly. Same with JR's pits, the crew. The crew members, JR, they all go out of their way to be friendly to our customers, give them that experience. And that goes a long way with us and executives at DHL. And it means quite a lot as a partner.
Yeah, very well said. Look, if you're going to sweat the details on your race car, you need to sweat the details on everything around your race car and the way it looks. Before we wrap up here a little bit, I just want to ask all three of you, Bob, I'll start with you. Is there any final thoughts that you want to share? Maybe something we didn't touch on or something you want to close with?
Well, just appreciate the opportunity. Again, this platform that the EPARTRADE has is not necessarily about sponsorship. But it's a racing platform, and we know there's a lot of manufacturers involved. We know there's a lot of racers out there that are trying to do the same objectives that we are. So to provide the insight, we appreciate that opportunity. And, if there's a way to help the sport, that's what we want to do. That whether it's a young aspiring racer that is 5 years old, that starts out in a junior ranks and works their way up. These are building blocks that based on the 62 years of experience that Connie has. So we're where we are because of everybody here that builds, that shows up every day, works hard to try to make our business the best it can be, driven by Chad Head. And, he's a go-getter, there's nobody here sitting still. And that's the way Connie's always done it. That's the way Doug runs his business. And so that, as Tony said earlier, just keep trying, stay positive, keep trying. And just appreciate everybody's time. Obviously, Tony and Dave have gone out of their way to support us today. And to any aspiring people out there or manufacturers that are interested in growing or learning about their businesses as well as ours, we open up that opportunity anytime.
Tony, how about you? Any final thoughts?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to thank EPARTRADE for putting this on and giving me the opportunity and the platform to speak today. Coletta Motorsports, 20 years. Thank you for everything that you've done for our company, our brand, our distributors. Our franchisees is the reason why we're there. It's not any other reason. It's about selling tools off of a truck. It's about anybody using tools in our industry, whether it's construction, automotive, plumbing, electrical. Whether you're using a Mac tool, a DeWalt tool, a Stanley tape measure, whatever, it's about those customers. And I want to thank them for their business because we would not be where we are today without those customers.
Very well said. How about you, Dave? Any final thoughts?
No, Brad, I appreciate you and EPARTRADE allowing us to come on today to talk about sponsorship. Hopefully, at least anyone listening in will take one tidbit and it might help them out. That means we accomplish what we set out for. As far as Team Coletta, as far as the aviation piece, since '88 with Connie, that partnership between us and them, as well as the last 14 years with the Motorsports team. In my last 4 years of involvement with Team Coletta, it's been an absolute pleasure. And we hope for another 50, 100 years. So thanks, guys.
Well said. Thank you all. Francis?
Well, thank you, gentlemen. What a great session. And I'm glad we figured out the sound issue with you, Dave. We had a little moment where we got scared, but it all worked out. Terrific webinar, gentlemen. Thank you so much. We're going to see you in a couple of weeks in Las Vegas for the race. We'll be there. And next week, we are going to host a webinar. We'll still be in drag racing because we're going to be talking chassis and suspension with S&W race car, Judy, correct?
Yep, that's right.
And the webinar will be hosted by Jeff Hammond. So thank you very much. And the webinar today has been recorded. It will be posted on the EPARTRADE platform in a couple hours and also be available on YouTube, Facebook, and different social media. So stay with us and we'll see you. Come back with us next week and we'll see you and we'll talk about drag racing, suspension, and chassis. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.